What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another week of our fantasy football podcast. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to invite in my good pal, Mr. Improvpete, to come help me with the show.
As I live and breathe.
Uh,
What's going
I
on,
heard
sir?
that line from somewhere. I just don't remember where.
I bet. What's
Somewhere.
going on?
The usual, I had an actual good week of football.
A
Entertaining week of
fantastic
football.
divisional week of football, I must
Gives
say.
us something useful to talk about this week instead of blowouts.
Yeah, right. That is all facts right there, ladies and gentlemen. All facts, ladies and gentlemen. So I wanted to throw this at you. Of course, I don't know if you want to talk about some of the announcements that have been made this week. If you want to go over the past games and then go over this weekend.
I can
What
start
are you
with the
feeling, Mr.
announcements.
J?
Start with the announcements. Why not?
All right, so we'll start off hot topic as of today. It broke this morning. Big Ben is officially done,
Yeah, well, we all knew this months ago, so
but
nothing really
officially coming out
shocking.
and saying it. Good on the man. I didn't know he had 2 Super Bowl rings. I could have sworn he only had one, but then he got one with Antonio Brown. But then back in the day, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, you got another one. So
I know.
not too
Good old back in the days.
crappy of a career for this man.
Uh-huh.
I just want to bring up just very quickly some interesting, good old stuff about him. 18 seasons, 2 Super Bowl
Mm-hmm.
rings, 418 passing touchdowns, 8 AFC North titles, 165 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Hall of Famer?
I think he will be.
I have no doubts that I agree with that statement that he will be. I think it's incredible. 18 seasons, 2 rings. I mean, great touchdown passes. Good on you, Big Ben. We appreciate you and everything you have done. So, do we feel what is Pittsburgh's plan now?
Well, we'll find out again. We've talked many times about the
Quarterback shuffle.
quarterback carousel. I'm just looking up something I want to talk about, but we'll find out in about a month and a half. I'm gonna say. 'Cause I don't think any big things will happen before then.
Well, I wanted obviously I'm surprised I was going to bring it up first, but I figured we'd ease into it. It just saddens me to let you know that Sean Payton is no longer the head coach of the Saints.
Oh yeah, saddens. I bet.
I had no issues. You know, fans of the show may have their issues with Sean Payton. I think he was a great head coach. I think he blurred the line between friend and coach, and he was there when the team celebrated. You could see in the locker room just how he was with his team. But with Drew Brees going last year, and I think him working with Jameis and then him getting injured, and of course Taysom Hill and all the quarterbacks that we saw the fucking wonderful Sims fucking week. I mean, I think it is true for Sean Payne to step away from the Saints. From what I understand, he's going to be working for ESPN as a commentator because good old Troy Aikman is going over to Amazon.
It sounds about right. I mean, that's usually what happens. In 2023, he will be the head coach of the New York Football Giants, but he contractually cannot do that for this season, as in they would have to pay the Saints something for his services. That will not happen, so he will sit out a year, work for ESPN, get those paychecks, and then he'll heroically come out of retirement to lead a not Daniel Jones led Giants team back to their glory days.
So you think he's going to the Giants, no doubt?
I wouldn't be surprised. I talked to some people. They said, "Why would the Giants hire a coach for one season?" Well, I hate to break it to you, the Houston Texans did that this year. To no one's surprise, they hired a lame duck head coach and then fired him after the first season. They only gave him a 2-year contract to begin with, knowing that they were only planning on a 1-year deal. So this guy got head coaching experience, and then Texans will move along. That being said, there were 2 coaches hired today. Not 1, but 2.
So we have the Green Bay offensive coordinator going over to the
Yeah.
Broncos.
Slow down here. We're not going to go that route yet. We're gonna lead into that one.
I can't wait. Talk to me, buddy.
So the Bears hired a defensive coach. He was I believe, the defensive line coordinator. He might have been the defensive coordinator for the Colts. Either way, they hired a defensive coach who needs to turn around that offense. Makes no logical sense, but it's the Bears, so whatever. Now on to the real actual hiring that anybody cares about is what you just said. The Denver Broncos hired Nathaniel Hackett from the Green Bay Packers. So all speculation will lead to
Aaron Rodgers going to the Broncos.
Aaron Rodgers going to the Broncos. They're also interviewing another guy to be their offensive coordinator. So it looks like they're trying to poach the Packers staff in order to get Aaron Rodgers to come to town. I don't know if this situation, because they can franchise tag him, and he won't be happy about it. I don't know if this situation will lead to Devontae Adams following along.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Do you think that they're going to be a pairing if they are able to go to Denver?
I think Denver could make it work. And look, if Green Bay is going to lose Aaron Rodgers, they need to add pieces. So Denver has pieces that they can ship to Rodgers. They can ship one of their young receivers and draft capital, which if you're Green Bay is what you're excited about. And then that gives you a year of, you give Jordan Love a target, to work with. And then you can prove to the world that Jordan Love was also not the answer. So then you scared away Aaron Rodgers and failed on multiple points. And then who knows what will happen in Green Bay. But point being is,
you don't think Love is going to be the guy in Green Bay after Rodgers leaves?
No, I don't think so. He had his chance against the Chiefs, and he didn't do much. And yeah.
Oh, that's very
But
fair.
he would have a legitimate chance, a full season worth to see instead of one game. So that would set that up, and if whatever they get, I don't think Jerry Jeudy would be the guy. I think Cortland Sutton, because yes, Cortland Sutton's the number one receiver, but you're replacing him with Devontae Adams, so it's not a big loss there. So I think all of a sudden you look at Devontae Adams, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, sitting there in Denver. Don't think Denver fans would be mad about that, but again, like I said, if Rodgers is leaving, there's no point in having Adams.
Reminds me of fucking Peyton Manning when he went to the fucking Broncos. If this is the trajectory of what's going to happen, it's going to be a Peyton Manning thing.
It could be, but I don't, Rodgers, I think, has a few more years left, so it wouldn't be a one and done. But yeah, I could see him winding down there. The thing with Denver then being is if they're giving up capital to obtain, say, Devontae Adams, they need to spend the money, go out there in free agency, because what did Peyton Manning have when he went there? An elite defense. Von Miller, yes, is on the back end of his career now, but they did trade Von Miller away, so they don't have Von Miller. They do not have what they had with Peyton Manning. So there's still a lot of moving pieces. So even if they get Aaron Rodgers, they still have Mahomes in that division. They still have the Chargers, even though the Chargers fell short this year. They still have competent teams in their division.
God, imagine twice a year you have Rodgers versus fucking Mahomes.
You certainly could.
That is must-see TV right there,
Thinking about it logically, the places you could end up, you're going to get big matchups either way. Because if San Fran doesn't go all the way, do they hang on to Jimmy Garoppolo? Do they hang on to Trey Lance? All those goodies, or do they go for the big one and go for Aaron Rodgers, even though they beat him? Things like that. I don't think Aaron Rodgers will end up there at this point because San Fran's winning.
I agree.
And they put their capital into Trey Lance, so Trey Lance should be the quarterback of the future. But don't forget that they had an interest in him. Will another team like the Raiders step up and grab him? Could be. We've talked about many times how they don't love their car there for whatever reason, even though he wins and at least holds his team together. So they would be one of those teams though that could keep that duo together. Rodgers, Adams.
Yeah, of
they
course,
would be one of them.
I feel with Sean Payton moving out and whatever is going to happen in New Orleans, I'm going to go on a guess here, a very strong prediction that Derek Carr will be in a Saints uniform next year.
I wouldn't deny that. The only real problem is the cap issues.
Oh yeah, of course, of course.
If they could find a way to make the cap issues work, yeah, that would be a very, very good move for the Saints.
I agree. I wouldn't
Because
have any
it
issues with
doesn't
that.
seem like he needs all the talent in the world around him. Yes, they have very serviceable receivers, but nobody's sitting here comparing Hunter Renfro to Cooper Cup.
Hmm.
You know, they're both similar type of receivers, but they're not on the same. It's apples and oranges comparing them. The Saints don't have those weapons, but the Saints' weapons are comparable to Hunter Renfro, Brian Edwards, etc. So they're on the same par length with that. Realistically, Kamara is better than Jacobs.
Well, I was about to say you definitely have an
Extremely
upgrade with the
debatable
running
this
game.
year. Debatable at this point. It's back end of this year, but the Saints are lacking Darren Waller, but that's a different story.
So we got a couple people in the chat. We got Bengals all the way. What's up, Chris? And then we have Rob coming in saying, I want Josh. I would love Josh Allen in New Orleans.
I'm sure they want Patrick Mahomes in New Orleans, and
I'll
all
take
those
Josh Allen
guys.
over
It's just
fucking Patrick Mahomes any day.
unrealistic. Buffalo ain't letting Josh Allen go.
No.
Unless you mean Josh Allen, a pass rusher, that could certainly happen, but it's one of the things the Saints don't really need is pass rush.
I think it's going to be very interesting what happens. At least, obviously, me being a New Orleans fan, but what's going to happen this postseason? Because Sean Payton, I feel like we could go in a completely different direction. Where will that put Kamara's head at? Where will that put a lot of like Traquan Smith? Like he's always been the guy. I feel like Traquan Smith is like Marcus Colston right now with the Saints, where he makes those plays, he's there. So whoever they bring in as head coach, I'm very curious to see how they progress with the Saints organization and what they decide to do.
Well, again, the Saints have an extremely tough cap situation, and it's
Oh, of course,
locked
of course.
into tough, immovable players. So will Michael Thomas be back next year? Probably not. You need to shed some of that. They're not going to shed Kamara,
Nope.
but you've got, the offensive linemen who are being paid. Players like that need, that they're going to need to try and restructure. And will said players be willing to,
Cameron Jordan, what will happen with him?
yeah, that's what I wanted to go look at
A
real
fucking
quickly.
fantastic player, but is he going to fit this new mold of what the Saints are looking for?
Yeah, exactly. And again, he's not, the youngest player in the league either. So I know I talked about it. So they're projected to be 71.5 million over the cap, which is very tough.
Well, look at what happened last year with Drew Brees.
So getting rid of Michael Thomas is almost certain to happen, and that's 24 million right there, almost 25 million. So I would expect Michael Thomas to be out the door. Now you're looking at Ramczyk making 23 million. He has a huge dead cap hit, so it's impossible to get rid of him because you're losing 14 million if you get him. So you need to restructure Ramczyk. Cam Jordan's right on par. He's making just under 23 million. His cap hit's 21 million. But that's somebody else you need to sit him down and be like, hey, for the good of the team, will you take a cap hit? But then after that, it's really tough. Armstead, he already restructured once, so that's not good. Like Ramczyk and Lattimore's got a huge contract, and he's a $40 million cap hit, so you can't cut him. He restructured for only just under 2 million. So you're gonna need to try and restructure him again. Like I said, Michael Thomas will be out the door.
That's a guarantee.
So between Lattimore and Thomas, you're looking at about 30 something million. You're still sitting 40 million over the cap. So Ranchep hasn't restructured yet in his Saints career. So you gotta look at him. Cam Jordan's restructured once, so I don't see why he wouldn't. Seems if you're gonna restructure, you're obviously a team player. But there's only so much you can squeeze out of because he's already restructured one time. So now the next guy that you would need to approach about restructuring is Alvin Kamara. And I don't know if Alvin Kamara is that type of guy that's going to say, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll restructure for the good of the team."
That is a very, very valid point right there, sir.
And then the next guy is Taysom Hill, who just signed a contract, and there's not much to restructure, so you're not saving much. So I'm assuming the Saints aren't firing their GM. I'm assuming he's not quitting. So it's the same guy who's been there, who's signed these contracts, etc. He needs to find a magic wand. We've already saved them with the top two guys. But if you're getting rid of Michael Thomas and you're restructuring Marshawn Lattimore, we got you halfway home. But you got to get the other half, and then you still need to build on this team.
Mm-hmm,
Is
mm-hmm.
Taysom Hill the quarterback going forward? Probably at this point.
I would think for at least a year.
I mean, you locked him up. I think he has to be. Yeah, Sean Payton's gone. So realistically, the coach to bring in, and I feel like this is what it's going to be. It's going to be a short-term coach who's tasked with making Taysom Hill that guy. And then when that fails, he'll be out the door. Taysom Hill will be out the door. Cap situation should be better. Hey, let's go, type of deal. So I hate to break it to you, Saints fans. You might be in for a rough 2-3 year stretch. The benefit is, Tom Brady might be retiring. So that
Well, that's
division's
the other
still
thing
wide
which
open.
we'll touch up on in a couple, but yeah, it's I definitely see some not so forgiving years in the next couple of years with the Saints, which you know what? Uh, yeah, like I said, Sean Payton's been the head coach for 16 years. Obviously, there's a change, so change is not always easy, but I feel like hopefully the team is still as hungry as they have ever been, and hopefully, like I said, Kamara works on being a team player. They obviously have to cut Michael Thomas. I mean, what he did this year, like how do you bring somebody back? Like I understand the circumstances, but you're a top receiver. You should be playing with your team. And if he played when he was supposed to go back in the middle of the season, and things could have been different. I'm not saying they would have been better. I'm not saying they would have been worse. They definitely would have made an impact. And I think that
Certainly, definitely would have been different. They probably make the playoffs, which then knocked San Fran out, and so we're not talking about San Fran in like 5 minutes. So,
exactly.
but
But
like I said, that's what they need to figure out the direction. I really truly think Tom Brady's decision will impact everything because if Tom Brady retires, you can say, hey, we have the pieces in a bad division, we can go get it. Tom Brady's staying for another year or two, or whatever. Hey, let's go. We're gonna trade this guy, get some pieces back, save some cap, like that, and just set the team up for like 3 years down the line.
when Brady finally retires.
But that also, and it's a tough thing to do, and they talk about in sports. When that happens, and you're the GM who's setting all that up in that 3 year span, you're gonna be gone. So you're building for somebody else. So the coach and the GM at that point would be gone, and they'd be starting from scratch, but they'd have the pieces in. Who knows what the division will be by then. But you've got Brady, who knows how much time he's got left. Matt Ryan, who knows how much time he's got left. In that division. Carolina. So that division is very winnable. They just need to see what direction they want to go. Do they want to fix the cap space and say, hey, in 2 years again, we're major players? Or are they just going to stick it out and try and, okay, we'll do this. We got this is our roster. We're going for it. And if we win, great. And if we lose, we tried.
We'll just build on next year and just keep going. That's very fair. So why don't we jump into this past weekend's games?
Go ahead. Start me up. Where are we starting?
I figure we'll start with pretty not a shock, I would say, but the Bengals beating the Titans at home.
So the fun fact of that game is the Titans every year they've been a number one seed have not won their first game. So the Titans need to stop doing that. Derrick Henry came back, scored a touchdown. Didn't have a great game.
I
I
think it was
mean,
under like 65 yards, I believe.
I didn't expect him to have a monster game. He's playing with a plate in his foot and all things like that. And his first game since week 8, it's not a great scenario to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's still a very good running back, but playing so-called handicapped, he's not playing at 100%. Obviously, all those things. But Ryan Tannehill played like he had a plate in his arm, head, foot, everything. I don't know what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. I think he
And
was a major factor of the downfall of the Titans.
of course, and they had a great regular season with him, and missing Derrick Henry for most of the year, and missing AJ Brown for times, and missing Julio Jones for most of the year. So you're without 3 of your best offensive players, and you're still the 1 seed. That's props to Tannehill. But then come playoff time,
Can't
outside
get
of
it
that
done.
1 year, Tannehill reverts back to he's Cinderella. Playoff time, the clock is striking 12, and Ryan Tannehill is reverting back to Miami Dolphins version of Ryan Tannehill, where in
Does
regular
Tannehill
season
stay in
he's
Tennessee after this year now?
you got to see what's out there, what ends up being out there. What is there going to be a realistic, viable replacement? Is Aaron Rodgers coming to Tennessee? Probably not. So what are you upgrading at this point? Are these kids out of college who might fall to the back end of the first round better than Tannehill? Not right now. Would that be a thing for Tennessee to consider? Absolutely. Because again, they're the 1 seed, which means they had a pretty good core of a team. So could
Mm-hmm.
they take a risk, if one of the quarterbacks falls? Because even though these quarterbacks this draft aren't, top tier, nobody's saying like, oh wow, these quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3 in the draft. There's none of that. There's a lot of talk of these guys should really be like 2nd-round picks, but teams are gonna take them because they need a quarterback type of deal. So if somebody they liked is sitting there, would it be the worst idea for the Titans to snatch one of them up and say, all right, Tannehill, you've got a year, or 2, let's go. Thanks for making us the 1 seed, but you haven't won a playoff game, realistically.
So
So
backpedaling to earlier when we talked about maybe Aaron Rodgers going to Denver, that would leave maybe a good old Teddy Bridgewater. And I think that Teddy would be a very good replacement in Tennessee.
I don't think so. I think the Teddy Bridgewater ship has now sailed with this season. And you can say what you want. Oh, he was so great in New Orleans and blah blah blah
I'm
blah
not even
blah.
saying New Orleans. I'm
He
just saying
had weapons in Denver, and they finished in last. I know somebody has to finish in last in a pretty good division, but
no, I agree.
they had 2 running backs. For the most part, were good almost the whole entire year. You had Sutton, you had Judy. I know he got hurt, but he came back. It's not like he missed the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Patrick had a very good year. They had the weapons. They did not do what they should have done. I'm not saying I expect them to win the division, but I think it was like 7 weeks into the season they were in first during week 7 because the Chiefs struggled to start. So you went from first to last, and in that 11-week span. Not good. Not good. I know he got banged up a couple times, but guess what? This is football. Everybody gets banged up. Jimmy Garoppolo is sitting here with a broken finger or whatever, trying to take a team. He goes 1 win away from taking the team to the Super Bowl. Like,
So
come
let's
on.
touch on that. Because we'll touch back with the Bengals, obviously, in the NFC Championship, the AFC Championship game, excuse me. 49ers at good old Green Bay. Did not matter number one seeds. Let me tell you, did not
No,
matter.
it obviously did not. And you'd think it would have been beneficial to both those teams because, like we said, it gave Derrick Henry an extra week's rest. It gave Aaron Rodgers an extra week rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, one of their best offensive linemen didn't play, but you need to. You have the probable MVP. You have a top 5 wide receiver. Realistically, you got a top 7 running back who
Mm-hmm.
I think in that game, if I saw had like 9 catches. So let's go. You need to score more than 10 points in a playoff game, home playoff game.
And mind you, this is another field goal game.
It was, and it'll be the same thing. All of these games this week were one score. Yes, the Chiefs
Mm-hmm.
game because it was in overtime was by the still one score. So the Packers had some questionable special teams in this game, which definitely led to their loss. There's not much to touch on. They come out their first drive, they score a touchdown. You're like, okay, this game's over. Packers are rolling, and they never scored a touchdown again. Like I said, they had some special teams mishaps. And then even on the field goal to end the game, they were short a man on defense. Not saying they would have blocked the kick, but having the correct amount of guys on the field
Would help.
might have helped at least try and block the kick. But
Let me tell you something. When that game ended, my only thought was, Aaron Rodgers must be so happy that now he could get the fuck out of Green Bay.
Well, again, we had those conversations. If they won the Super Bowl, there's no way Aaron Rodgers is gone.
Yeah, of course.
So you go out there and you flop in your first playoff game and score 10 points. That literally just opens the door. Hey, all right, goodbye. Is it on him? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Again, you're going to be that MVP in your own playoff game. And you scored on your first drive. And you never scored again. You kicked a field goal, and that was it. You rolled down the field. Dillon got a rushing touchdown. 7-0 Packers. And then what happened? Aaron Rodgers forgot how to play.
Mm-hmm.
The Packers themselves forgot how to play. I just don't know, and it baffles me. I get it that there was a little bit of snow and all that, but come on. Let's go, Aaron Rodgers. Now, you got plenty of time to make commercials now.
Yeah, that's the thing it's just the pisser at the end of the day. You're looking at this man being, quite frankly, the front runner, because God forbid they give it to Cooper Kupp, the front runner for MVP, and you have a week off, which I've always thought that I think sometimes you have that week off. I think sometimes that's more harmful than good for a lot of teams. Like, obviously, it does have its good merits.
It can be, but, again, you need to.
Yeah, of course. But especially you being at home, Aaron Rodgers, you have to show, like, you can't always say, I don't have weapons or you're pissy pants. Like, you got to show why. Granted, Boza and fucking that 49ers team, especially with Deebo Samuel, we talked about it last week with him being the fantasy god that he was this year. Like, you got to prepare for that. And to drive down with A.J. Dillon and get a rushing touchdown, not even a rushing touchdown, and then only being able to get a field goal and having just San Fran control the ball for the most part and control the game, where Aaron Rodgers was not going down the field and getting those touchdowns that we're used to seeing in Green Bay, and especially Aaron Rodgers. And this game, let me tell you something, it makes me think that the 49ers might be more of a threat to all these teams than people are taking serious.
Well, it's real simple. They won a game. They didn't even score on offense. They did not score a touchdown on offense. The only touchdown was a block punt.
Mm-hmm.
And they beat the number 1 seed. The Packers defense, which is pretty good. I'm not saying the defense is terrible, but obviously the offense gets all the recognition. The defense did their part.
Mm-hmm.
They held the 49ers to 2 field goals. The special teams let them down, and the offense let them down. And this is why they're now sitting at home. Rodgers make some Roger rate commercials and all that.
Got all Roger rates.
All those goodies.
So let's move on to the Rams Bucks game. Now, we said last week that this could go either way, and
Well, the Rams certainly wanted it to go either way.
but
I don't know why you want to talk about it like they went up and then they just stopped playing defense. Tom Brady started playing offense. All the goodies. And wow, it turned out to be an amazing game. Realistically,
but the question has to be asked: will this be
well,
Brady's last
let's
game as a Buck?
let's not touch that just yet. Just because we don't want to spoil what was a really good game. Got to give both teams their props.
Oh yeah, fair.
It was a legitimate game. I'm just pulling up the stats because I wanted to, touch on a few of them.
Got
Matt
Mike Evans
Stafford,
touchdown.
Matt Stafford didn't turn the ball. He had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, threw for 366. He did his work. Cooper Kupp did what Cooper Kupp does: 9 for 183 and a touchdown.
Unbelievable.
Although Beckham had 6 catches, so again, we talk about it pretty much every week. His career has been revitalized going there. Good on him. The real tough part was now coming back. In his second game back, Cam Akers had 24 rushes for 48 yards. Not good. But he had 2 huge fumbles. One of them was a little rough. They were about to go in for a score and he fumbled. So that took points off the board, where this game could have been over already. But then the second one, they stuck with him like they should have, and he ended up fumbling again, and that's what got Tampa the momentum back. You can't put all the blame on Cam Akers because, and he even came out and said in a post-game interview, Cooper Kupp also fumbled. The number one receiver in football. He put one on the ground too in the second half, which didn't help the cause. So, I don't know if they played a little more lackadaisical or whatever, but those were big things. They were fumbling all over the place, and that's what kept them in the game. And then, like you said, Mike Evans didn't match him yard wise because Cooper Kupp had a 70-yard touchdown, but Mike Evans had 8 catches and a touchdown. Gronk had 4 for 85. The bad part was, and I know a lot of this was on Brady, and Brady statistically had, for the most part, his best career season. Gronk had 11 targets and only 4 catches. Brady threw a lot of passes short of Gronk in that game, especially late in that game where he had Gronk. Maybe it might have been a contested catch, but you giving Gronk that catch. They did make one really nice play on I think it was a 3rd down though on Gronk where the DB knocked the ball away. But a lot of that, sadly, was on Brady. Leonard Fournette had 9 catches on 9 targets. I guess that's a lot of checking down, all that. But, they all showed up. Brady had an interception and a fumble. So, 2 turnovers there. But realistically, the big playmakers came to play. Mike Evans showed up. Matt Stafford showed up. Cooper Kupp showed up. Odell Beckham showed up. Gronk showed up. For the most part, Fournette coming off an injury showed up. So you got everything you wanted out of that game and a close game. So that's what made that a great game. And I think I said it last week that this was the game that I was interested in.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that. Now you can go bring up your question.
Well, I just want to also touch on the defense for the Rams. I mean, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, they're gonna be a fucking force to be reckoned with. Let me tell you.
Of course, Von Miller did force a fumble.
So
Aaron Donald's stat sheet doesn't look monstrous, but it's what he does. You force double teams on Aaron Donald, which then lets Von Miller,
do his thing,
or let somebody else do their thing. So just because his stat sheet doesn't show up, you're not sitting there, oh my God, Aaron Donald had 5 sacks. But Aaron Donald, by taking away, forcing the line to double cover him, sets up somebody else to get a sack or
Exactly.
pressure, whatever it is. If, you're making Brady uncomfortable. And, again, like I said, he underthrew Gronk on at least four passes. So he had four catches on 11 targets. He underthrew Gronk on four. That makes eight. And that excellent pass deflection makes nine. So, two passes realistically, could have been made by, Brady to Gronk. But realistically, they pressured him and he had to get rid of the ball. And that's a lot of what affected that game. Yes, the second half, the Bucks made a huge comeback. So it doesn't look great on the defense. But in the first half, they were shutting it down and forcing Brady into bad plays. Again, he turned the ball over. You expect Matt Stafford to be the guy throwing the interceptions. Matt Stafford did not.
Great, like you said, great game. No interceptions, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, threw for, I'm going to say almost 400 yards. It wasn't right there, but if you round up, he's closer to 400 than he was to 300. So
I agree.
Brady had 329, Stafford had 366. So
It was definitely an exciting game to watch. But now I'll jump into my question. Is this it for Brady in Tampa? Is this it
I
for his career?
I don't. If you, if he were to choose right this minute, I think, and Gronk came out and said the same thing. Like if Gronk had to give an answer right this minute, he'd say he's done with football. I think Brady's going to take his sweet time and then make the decision that he wants.
You don't
Coming
think
off of
good
the
old
regular
Giselle is going to
season,
affect it?
what happened?
You don't think the wife is going to affect it?
Well, obviously, and he's said that, but give it time and all that. It's going to see what happens. Byron Leftwich is probably going to leave and be a coach, presumably for Jacksonville, something like that. So, he's going to want to see all these things. Who are they replacing Byron Leftwich with? All those things. That those are things that will
Affect his
positively or
decision.
negatively affect his decision. So I don't see him being, maybe under the table, he'll be keeping them in charge. Like, hey, I think I am retiring, so look, maybe make a move for Russell Wilson, something like that.
God, Russell Wilson in fucking Tampa. Oh my God. Don't
If
say
you're a
such
team
things.
that's sitting there with Mike Evans, if Brady retires, Gronk's retiring. So that's a given. But just turn it around. You're a team that's going to have Leonard Fournette back next year, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin.
Huh?
You're not just, and again, we just talked about the Saints may be rebuilding. Who knows what Carolina's doing?
Nobody knows what Carolina
And,
is. Not even
Atlanta is Atlanta. So you've got a very winnable division. If Tom Brady retires, you're not just packing that in as well. You've got weapons. We need a quarterback. You're not sitting there like, oh, I hope Daniel Jones gets cut so we can sign him. That's not the answer. You're if Tom Brady's retiring, you're getting the best possible replacement you can. Would they be a team that could get? I mean, I'm sure they could convince Aaron Rodgers to come there, having all those weapons.
I was going to say to you, do you think Rodgers might
Devontae Adams wouldn't be coming with him though, in that sense, and I feel like Rodgers is going to want Adams, so that's why that won't work.
That's fair.
But realistically, yeah, I'm sure they could convince Aaron Rodgers to go play in nice weather and have a really good team around him. But if Brady retires, you need to go get whoever the best available quarterback that you can possibly get. Obviously his backup's not the answer. So that's on that. These guys a lot of these guys that are probably hitting free agent, maybe they go get Deshaun Watson. I don't know how high Houston's asking price is still going to be at this point. Now they didn't play all last year, but that would obviously be a really good replacement. So, but they got to do something with that division being wide open without Tom Brady.
And you figure in the next couple months he'll take his sweet ass time.
Yeah, he's not going. We're not going to be sitting here, the day after the Super Bowl, hey, I'm retired. Because then 2 months down the line, he's like, I got the itch and I'm playing. It just doesn't work that way.
100%. Final game is the Bills versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs were at home. What a last 2 minutes and 12 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's complaint is the overtime rules, and I've been saying that for years. I wish they would. That's one thing where college is superior to the NFL. I wish they adapted the college football overtime rules. College football, each team gets a chance, and then if you're still tied, you keep going. But then after the second time, if you score a touchdown, you now have to go for two. So say it's tie, they go to overtime. Chiefs kick a field goal, Bills kick a field goal. It goes to the second overtime. Chiefs kick a field goal, Bills kick a field goal. Goes to the third overtime. Chiefs score a touchdown. They go for two and fail. Buffalo has to score a touchdown. They score the touchdown. They go for two. You can't kick the extra point at that point. You have to go for two. So it's tie game. Buffalo goes for two, gets it. Boom. Buffalo wins like that. I would much rather see that. So you're not just literally getting lucky and getting the coin toss. Buffalo never touched the ball on a game that they were winning almost the entire game. They never got touched the ball in overtime and lost.
I agree.
It is what it is, but it's just silly.
That it is. Thank God for Travis Kelce for the Chiefs. That's all I know.
Yeah, well, that's on Buffalo. You're the number one ranked defense, and you're just gonna let one of their two best playmakers just wander down the field. They did say they had an interview with Kelsey, and him and Mahomes talked about it that he wasn't gonna run the route that was supposed to be ran on that play. So good on them for knowing, that they were both on the same page with that. Because if he doesn't do that, they probably don't get into field goal range. We're talking about Buffalo Bengals instead of Chiefs Bengals.
That is fair. Do you want to talk about this game anymore? I think it's pretty. You saw what you saw. The Bills, like I said, and you said they were definitely
It
looking
was the
good.
highest scoring game, so you knew what you're gonna have. But again, the number one defense gave up 42 points. It's playoffs. Defense is supposed to reign supreme, not give up 42 points. Obviously, I get it that Mahomes is Mahomes. I mean, we yes, we should talk about this for a minute, just because Gabriel Davis went off. On a team with Diggs, Beasley, Sanders. Gabriel Davis had 8 for 201 and 4 touchdowns. Emmanuel Sanders had 1 catch, and Diggs also had 1 catch. So without Gabriel Davis, Diggs had 3 catches. The ad got in my way. But Davis, who was great in the second half of the season, he doesn't show up in this game. This is Kansas City blowout. Because Singletary had 10 for 26 rushing, and Cole Beasley was their second leading receiver with 60 yards. So Gabriel Davis had triple their second best receiver. And he had 8 catches on 10 targets. So it's not like he had 45 targets and just got lucky.
And he was just there for the ball.
He was the guy who showed up, got open, all of that. Diggs had 6 targets, had 3 catches for 7 yards. So, a very underwhelming performance out of him, considering we'll bring it up. We've seen what he's done in playoff games. You need to have better performance from a guy being paid as a top 5 wide receiver.
I agreed. Definitely agreed. Yeah, I think, like I said, we said it right at the top. The last 2 minutes, 12 minutes. I mean, how many score of fucking back
I think
and
there's
back?
25 points in the last 2 minutes, which is insane.
I mean, these are two of the best at their positions, battling it out. I mean, I have no doubts we'll see this and more into the future of playoffs, where you're going to see Josh Allen, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Mahomes. I'm waiting for the day though that Josh Allen beats Mahomes, and I feel like because of
It's
this
tough.
overtime rule,
This was the year. This would have should have been the year.
yep, and because of the overtime bullshit, and that's why as soon as the Chiefs got it, I said that's game.
Well, yeah, of course. The CBA will be up next season, I believe, for football. So you would have to assume this is something that's going to be visited in that the overtime rules. Because if you're a player, this is all part of that thing. You're negotiating. If you're a player, you don't want that. It's not just
Mhm.
Buffalo. Everybody's thinking the same thing. Realistically, 31 other teams outside of Kansas City are thinking the same thing. Like, man, the Bills got screwed, and we wouldn't
Mhm.
want to be in that situation. So I could see this getting discussed. So you'll have next season probably, unless they just jump out and just jump the gun and say, "Hey, we're changing overtime." You'll have it for one more season, and then I would not be shocked at all in the CBA. That's one of the major changes. I don't know if they'll go to the college type, but
I think they might go to a form of
something
it,
will be different. Something will absolutely be different, and it has to be because you got to give both teams a chance.
especially in playoff football.
Exactly.
Especially in playoff football. So let's jump into this weekend.
Uh huh.
Big championship games. Of course, the first is the Bengals versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs are at home. My question is to you: Is can Burrow and Chase keep up with the Chiefs?
Well, the obvious answer would be yes because they beat them in the regular season.
But it's not the regular season, Joe.
Exactly. This is not the regular season, so anything can happen. Can they keep up? Well, I think so. Because the weak point of the Bengals that we talked about before is their offensive line. But the Chiefs' defense is not what they were the last 2, 3 years. So they're not they. I don't think they'll be able to pressure Burrow enough. Yes, it's on the road. Oh no, you know they won on the road last week. It's not Arrowhead, but they won on the road last week. So
And you got to be feeling pretty good about being the number one.
exactly, now you're facing the number two. I guess the big thing to this is, some random stats. They're averaging 33 points a game with Mahomes in the playoffs as a starter. So you feel like they're going to score. And when you look at the Bengals, you think they're going to score as well. So does this become a thing where, okay, the Bengals have a better defense than the Chiefs? Maybe they can make a stop. That's the way they're gonna have to win is, hey, we've got a better defense. We need to make a stop, force a turnover, etc. Because realistically, yeah, they can both go up and down the field. They can match them there, but who's to say so and so ain't gonna fumble or
Hmm.
whatever? Burrow's still a young quarterback. Maybe there was a bad pick, whatever the case may be. I could see this honestly being a legitimately close game, like 35-31, something in that area. I need to see fourth quarter, how the Bengals react, especially if it's a close game. Do they
Hmm.
fold? Does Burrow get nervous? I know he's played in national title games, all that. We've seen the Bengals kickers clutch, so
Well,
I don't.
didn't the kicker go up to them and say, "Boys, we're about to go to the AFC Championship"? That is
I mean
just
that's the story, so he's confident himself. But that's what I mean is, so you think that you're not worried about the kicker. He ain't nervous. But
I,
that's what we want to see is what if it's a close game, can they battle back? Or whatever. If they're up, can they stay up? Things like that. That's what we need to see. But again, you got 3 quarters before that, getting blown out of the water. It don't matter.
I
But I
think the
could.
most important part of this game, for me at least personally, will be who has the ball first who scores first, and then, like you said, let's go to the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter. What's the score? What are we looking at? Who has possession? Who's been dominating? I
Well,
think
I think we all think that these teams are going to score. So I don't know how much who scores first will come into play. Because we saw last week the Packers scored first, so that didn't mean a thing.
that is a fair statement. I just feel like I think the Bengals see themselves as the underdog. I mean, looking at these four final teams, I mean, everybody is most likely writing off Cincinnati because the Chiefs have been there. The Rams have the best wide receiver, and they've just been dominant this year. And San Fran are just pulling fucking miracles out of their ass.
Yeah.
So how do you not look at Cincinnati and them going in the corner and being like, we're going to step up. We're going to be the team. We have Burrow and Chase, Joe Mixon. We're going to get him involved. We're going to be that team. We just got to stop them. We got to keep Hill. We got to keep Kelsey down. And I 100% agree that it's going to be a 35-31 game, 37-33. I think this game is going to show that there is something going on in Cincinnati and that they will be back next year stronger, better, and more of a team to take on seriously. I think if the Bengals don't win this, which I don't think they will, I think the Chiefs will at the end. Mahomes will do his Mahomey things and get to the Super Bowl. But I think this will be a statement game for the Cincinnati Bengals saying, we're here. You didn't think about us all year, but we're here now. And we're going to show you why we're a good team. And even if we lose, we're going to come back licking our wounds twice as stronger next year. And you're going to see us again in this postseason.
Well, it's easy to look at it because think about it. So we talked about at the beginning of the show. Ben retired, so that weakens the team in a division.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield's not very good. So yeah, the Browns should be good, but they seem like less of a threat. So you're really competing with Lamar to win a division, but you should get into playoffs one way or another. But by the Bengals playing good and now having won 2 playoff games already, that makes you more attractive to free agents and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They need offensive line help. The Packers might be, rebuilding if Aaron Rodgers leaves. The Packers have a couple good offensive linemen. Hey, maybe the Bengals go get one of them. Whatever. Something to build the team. They fit these needs. And now you sitting here, you keep Joe Burrow upright, and he's got all day long to throw the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Boyd and the tight end, or even check it down to Joe Mixon. They're even better.
Mm-hmm.
They can make some moves in the draft, get something they need, trade up, get a piece they need, help that O line. But like I said, now all of a sudden you're winning and you're in a somewhat winnable division. It makes it attractive for people to come there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I
Who
think
doesn't want to be on a team with Joe Burrow all of a sudden?
have that nice little combo. I think, like I said, I think the Chiefs will pull out this win, but I think the Bengals will show people, come, we have a team, and if you want to get to the postseason, you come over and you come with Burrow, you come with Chase, you come with Mixon, Boyd. We got a great dynamic here. Come be a part of our family so we can be in another NFC championship, our AFC championship, excuse me, and go into the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I like I said, I think you agree. We say Chiefs.
I think so. I do want the Bengals to win, but I think the Chiefs
I hope the
will
Bengals
hold
win the whole
court.
thing. Because let me tell you something. The hatred I have for both teams in the NFC right now are beyond believable. We have the 49ers at the Rams. I hope both teams explode. I hope just the Bengals just get a free win and go all the way. Fun fact, the Rams have not beaten the 49ers in the last 5 games.
It's actually the last 6 games. So
Is it that?
It is. So even funner fact.
So does the Rams stop this being at home, being in the NFC Championship? Are they the team now to show, no 49ers, you might have beaten us the last week of the season, but we're going to show you why we are the Super Bowl. Sean McVay, we bring us back to the Super Bowl.
Well, there's one big factor in here that's going to affect this game. It may not be a home game realistically for the Rams. You're literally playing a team that
A
you
couple hours away.
you're playing your California teams playing each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, they're already talking about that they're trying to limit ticket sales to 49er fans, but somebody buys that ticket and they sell that ticket online. They don't give a fuck who
What
you
fan
rooting
you are?
for. They see this and they don't care who's buying it.
Exactly.
So just because you're limiting tickets to them, when you hit those third party apps and your eyes light up with the amount of money that somebody's willing to pay for that game, boom. So you lose that advantage right then and there. So it's not clear cut home game for the Rams. So in that sense, not great for them. We've seen the 49ers defense show up. They played the Cowboys, who had the number one offense in the regular season, and they shut them down. And then they played the MVP and shut them down. So now here we go. You're now facing a team that you're probably in their head because you beat them 6 times in a row, which means you've beaten this team with Matt Stafford. Beating Jared Goff 4 times in a row is one thing. But now you're beating this, once even when they started the year, everybody thought they were a juggernaut. And then they got Von Miller. Makes him even, look more like a juggernaut. You've beaten them twice with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. So you have that in their head. And that's one huge tactical advantage. So do they stand a fighting chance? Absolutely. Will they pull it off?
That is my question because it sounds like you're going towards San Fran right now, sir.
No. I think this is finally the experience. McVay's been to the Super Bowl. I think the Rams tighten everything up. You may see more Sony Michelle this week
I was about to, yeah,
because
I
of
was going to
Akers
say.
fumbles. Yes, Cam Akers is the better playmaker, which is why he fumbled, trying to make more out of less. So I think they may play it safe with Sony Michelle. And I'm not saying because Cam Akers had 24 carries last week. I'm not saying it's going to flip flop and Sony Michelle's getting 24 carries, but it might be a lot more balanced out,
I agree.
especially later in the game if it's a close game where it might be all Sony Michelle. If they're losing, Akers will be in there trying to break a big play. But if they're up, it's going to be Sony Michelle. So can San Fran stop Cooper Kupp? Nobody's been able to. So that's one big advantage. And then, like we talked about, Odell Beckham is coming to his own
Resurgence.
zone. So you can't stop Cooper Kupp. And I think we talked about it. I don't know if it was with the Rams game. I don't think it was. Sorry, I just shit on my screen. Do you now go out and say, hey, Cooper Kupp's gonna do his thing? Let's focus more on Odell Beckham. Put our best corner on Beckham. How do they want to work that? Those are all big things that San Fran is obviously game planning for. That's what we need to see is how they're going to end up playing, and this is why these games get played. Cooper Kupp had 100 and I think 81 or
81
91
yards.
yards last week. I don't expect him to do that, but he's going to do his thing. He's going to get 7, 8, 9, probably 10 catches. So can San Fran's offense match that? And I think this is where it ends. Everybody's, look at Jimmy Garoppolo's winning percentage as the starting quarterback. Great. You're facing a team that's mostly underachieved this season, but has the weapons on defense. Von Miller's won a Super Bowl. Aaron Donald's been to a Super Bowl. Jalen Ramsey went to an AFC Championship game. They've got the experience. They've got the talent. I just think this is finally the week that San Fran just can't. They're not going to win. This is not going to be a 13-10 game. So San Fran's going to need to keep up with them. Jalen Ramsey can can, as a receiver, hold down Debo. So it's going to be Debo running as a running back, and then figuring out how to stop Kittle, most likely. I like that odds, those chances much better. I think this is finally the Rams break through and finally beat the 49ers, and it's going to be, in the more important game, the playoff game. So I think it finally happens with the Rams. You get Rams Chiefs Super Bowl. I think it's in that stadium too. So
I mean, I can't disagree with that. I mean, I think it is the Rams' time to shine. I mean, you have Cooper Cup having a sensational season and a great postseason. Obviously, should be in the talks for MVP. I mean, you also have OBJ, the resurgence after coming from Cleveland, and him just fucking being a big time player. You saw last week in an interview, the guy Odell goes up to a player and goes, "It's we, not me. It's we." Having that mindset going in, the Rams are just ready to pounce, and it is going to be a high scoring game. And I don't think Jimmy is going to be able to keep up with that. I mean, you have Aaron Donald, Von Miller, both experienced in a Super Bowl, been in a Super Bowl, been in a championship. You have Sean McVay, who's been in that big picture. He knows what it's about. You have that experience factor, and that's what's going to win this game, experience. And I think that the Rams have it, and they're going to look at we haven't won 6 games against San Fran. Doesn't matter. This is the game to win, and we're going to show you why. And we're going to utilize our weapons, whether it be Sony Michel, who's been having a fantastic season, and not a lot of people talk. I know you're very high on Sony, and then, of course, Cam Akers, who can have that big rush. I mean, there's just too many weapons. And if they can indeed shut down Debo, which is going to happen, I feel Kittle, I don't think, has had the year that he should have had. And I don't think Kittle is going to be that factor for San Fran. And if you have these points going up on the scoreboard, how are you going to contest with just good old George Kittle? Granted, you have other playmakers on that team. But at the end of the day, I think the Rams are just too hungry, too much of experiences on that team, both offense, both defense. And even I think that the Rams will pull up a win, and I think this game will end up being 35-24.
well,
Rams.
this is why they traded for Stafford. Moments like this, they gave up a ton to get him. Now we're going to see if it was worth it.
So you're going with the Rams, as do I.
I'm going with the Rams, yes.
So pretty much in agreement. So should be a good thing of football. Of course, that's the later game, which I think is the more I don't want to say action packed, but I feel like that's the better night game. But thank you, sir, for joining me.
No problem.
It's a little bit of a quicker, obviously not too many games to be watched this weekend because we are down to the absolute final. So make sure, if you're new here, you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, follow over us on Twitter, all the fun stuff. Drop us comments, give your thoughts, tell us who you think is going to win, all that fun jazz. We're going to come next week. Well, what are we going to do for next week? We'll probably talk about the Pro Bowl. Why not?
Next week, obviously, we'll talk about the 2 games, and then I figure we'll talk about our fantasy, awards.
I would occur. And then, of course, the final week we have
because I hate to break it to you.
Super Bowl.
Nobody cares about the Pro Bowl. It ain't even a thing.
Everybody loves the Pro Bowl.
Okay, so I'll let you talk about the Pro Bowl. I'll
turn
my camera off. I'll go in another room, do something. I'll let you talk about the Pro Bowl. How much you love it.
That's it. As always, thank you for joining me, sir.
Yep.
We'll see you guys next week.